everybody. Our much anticipated third speaker, Shelby, is here.
I made it.
Yes, I said bad timing on my part. So Shelby is Anchor Farm, and it's
Cheney.
Cheney. I said it right, finally.
Yeah.
And so Shelby, I'll let her take it away. And
hi, everybody. I'm grateful to be here for lots of reasons. The number one on my heart is the last time I drove up here, I was hauling a pallet of potatoes with my Toyota Tacoma back home, and all of the lug nuts on the front driver tire sheared off, and all of the posts except for 2 broke. And the tire stayed on, and I did not die or wreck. So thank God. Y'all are supposed to be in my life, and I'm supposed to be in yours. So I will let you know that what I'm talking about has a financial affiliation with me. But I share it because I care. And everything you learned before me, I've done as well, and I'm still doing. So there's the transparency part. Let's talk about me for just a minute, because I like me too. How do I click this thing?
so the bottom one is forward.
Oh, that's backwards.
It is. Is it watching? Oh, you know what? If I turned it on for you, it would help.
Oh, power. Good deal. The bottom one is forward. Huh. Okay. Some pictures of what I do. Anchor Farm is located west of Wichita. I raise a flock of hair sheep, complete with a cute guardian donkey. Her name is Mage. On pasture, I'm regenerating soil that was once full tillage, monocrop, fallow chemistry for however many years. It got put into no-till 3 years before I became the steward of it in 2019, and now we are transitioning into cool season perennial pasture with pasture crops with biology. There's also pigs on pasture now across the farm. I love them because they till. And tillage is a tool that I'm learning to use after not using it for a long time and suffering some consequences. Most of those consequences were to my bottom line because I am running a business. But tillage is a tool. And when you use it right, it works well. But when you overuse it, you kind of put your foot in your butt. That's my family. I'm the lead farmer on the farm. My husband works full-time off farm at Spirit Aerosystems. He's a city boy that I'm turning into a country boy, which his mama loves. And then the 2 little farmers are Kimber and Bodie, our children. My son Bodie, his 8th birthday is today, which is part of why I'm late, because birthday pancakes. I also have 2 high tunnels. They were grants. There's some people in this room that could help you with that if that's something you're interested in. And I could also tell you what not to do. And some things to do. So the middle is my why. It's why I'm here. It's why I raise food. There's a lot more to that, but that's a really long-winded thing. I'm here to talk to you about, well, I must ask you a question. How are you supporting the biology you already have? And how are you adding biology that may not be there anymore? That's the question. And there's lots of answers. It's not black and white. There's lots of answers. That's where context comes into play. So I did early on in my farm, my personal farm, not the farms I worked for. We'll just back up. I started Anchor Farm with 0 operating loan, no note. I don't farm with the bank, and I never have. I have borrowed money from friends and family, which is a different situation than the bank, but I have not ever had to jump through the hoops of insurance, of all that stuff. And so I started a farm with 0 insurance on any crop and 0 operating note. And that changed the game for me. It was really hard. And so I was doing composting. And by composting, I mean I was composting piles the size of my truck. And I don't own any equipment. And I have young children. And keeping compost turned and watered and warm when you don't have those things and you're juggling too many balls, it's very difficult, but it's doable. And I was studying Dr. Elaine Ingham and the soil food web. And at a farm I worked at before, I did Johnson Sioux, and Johnson Sioux is wonderful. It was hard for me to keep Johnson Sioux alive and have a success rate I wanted. And I was studying Korean natural farming for vegetable production. And I used some Korean natural farming stuff at a vegetable farm that I worked at before I started my own. And I was just struggling all the way around. All of it seemed really hard, even though I knew it worked. I also have a worm farmer friend. I was using castings. This is actually my original brewer for casting tea. This is what I built. And then I met these wonderful people, Kelly and Deanna Lazinski. They're from South Dakota. Their company is called Guardian Grains. They're regenerative farmers. I could talk for 20 minutes about them. And I met them and I told Deanna, this is what I'm struggling with. And she says, same thing, different context. She was in North Dakota. It's even harder to keep compost and Johnson Su alive. She goes, you need IMOS. And I said, I can't afford IMOS. And what I mean by that is I couldn't afford to pay for the video series. It was $500. I did not have the cash at that time. And I said, I'm saving dollars one at a time in a jar. Fast forward a year, I saw her at No Till on the Plain. She said, are you ready? And I said, I have $127 or whatever it was. And she says, okay, good job. And I said, thanks. And then a few weeks later, she called me and she says, we'd like to trade your first IMOS series with you for research. Because when they started IMOS, they never ever thought indigenous microorganism solution. They never ever thought that they would take it to other people. But then it worked. And then people like Jay Fuhrer and others were like, you have to share this with other people. And so they did. And a whole bunch of things transpired. And then I got the guts to ask them because I got excited about it and I started using it and I started seeing the results. And because there's short-term results when you start using biology and then there's long-term results. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff in between. And then I got the guts to ask her, hey, can I do this? Can I help people with this? What does that look like? I want to preserve the integrity. I'm not looking to screw the farmer. My time is valuable. How can you help me? Are you okay with this? And that's where we are today. So I do IMOS for myself. I help people do IMOS for themselves, and I do IMOS for people. One of my favorite quotes from Deanna is, the last thing we need is more of anything. We need better of a lot of things. And I apply that to so many aspects of my operation and my family. So we already talked about this. They're all great options. I'm not here to sway you from one or the other. It's not uncommon when I brew IMOS for myself. Not only am I using indigenous microorganisms, but I'm also using Fed and Happy worm castings because I like throwing lots of arrows out in there and saying, okay, what's going to work is going to work and what's going to not, I'm not going to worry about. So, can we make this fit? I mean, it's not okay. So this is I'm not going to tell you step by step how to make IMOS because it is a income opportunity for Kelly and Deanna. And if it's something you want to do, you either need to invest the money into yourself and your operation or your homestead or ask for help. But I'm going to give you the brief overview. How does IMOS work? Indigenous microorganisms. So the first thing I do to get this biology, and it's a very, very broad spectrum. Do you guys know about probiotics, like for human health? So there's probiotics you can buy that's like 1 or 2 strands, and then there's probiotics that are like 30 strands. Which one, bang for your buck, might be better for you? Yes. Unless you know you have a problem tied to specifically you're missing this organism, it is my opinion that you should have diversity. And that's an important thing for regenerative agriculture or soil health or whatever you want to call it today. Diversity is important. And so we're borrowing a whole lot of diversity that's already there in nature because I'm pretty sure nature has everything we need. We just got to figure out how to use it or not destroy it. And so I go out and I borrow biology from nature, and I borrow biology from 3 very specific places. I borrow biology from underneath a fruit tree that has sugary barren fruit because sugar or carbon feeds biology. And when there's a native fruit tree, so mulberry, sand plum in my area, that's apples, not technically native, but naturalized. Plums, pears. I borrow that biology because that tree grows fruit. There's biology on the fruit. There's biology in the soil. The fruit falls to the soil. The fruit helps feed the soil. There's also biofilms on fruit. Like if you go out into the wild and you pick an apple and there's a film on it, that's biology. It's all kinds of things. It's not just bacteria. There's fungal stuff. There's yeast stuff. That's all biology, and that's all stuff that should be in the soil. So we borrow soil from there. I go to a native grassland, as native as it gets. Now, again, this is contextual. If you have to drive 50 miles to get to native grass, it's probably not going to work for you. So find the healthiest piece of grass. Go out there, whether it's in your system or you call a friend and say, hey, I don't have a pasture that's healthy, or I don't have access. Can I go look in yours? And look for diversity. There's birds, there's bugs, there's more than just one stand of grass. There's forbs out there. There's all different shapes, colors, sizes of plants. Look down into the soil. What does it look like? What does it smell like? Use your free tools, your eyes, your nose. Probably don't taste it unless you're weird as me. Your ears, listen for the bird song, listen for the bugs. Does it look healthy? Is there a greener spot? Why is it greener? Maybe you should pull that sample, and borrow that indigenous microorganism from that area. So pull the soil from there. And when I say pull the soil, I pull 4 to 6 inches, and it's about a cup of soil. It's not very much because there's so much biology in there. You're going to take it home and you're going to feed it, and you're going to grow it, and then you're going to have even more. And so from a native grassland, from underneath a fruit-bearing tree, and then my mind just blanked because I don't have my notes in front of me. Native grassland, underneath a tree. Oh, a wooded area. So I go into a forest where there's obvious signs of health. Again, there should be a lot of diversity. There should be mammals, there should be birds, there should be bugs, there should be all kinds of different trees. But more than anything, what I'm looking for in a wooded area is obvious signs of fungus. You want both saprophytic and mycorrhizal fungi. I'm not going to go down that hole because I'm not James White. But one of those breaks down organic matter and creates more soil, and one of them helps create associations with roots of plants and the biology in the soil. And the biology in the soil talks with the roots in the plants and makes everything available to the plant. So it works in symbiosis. So you're borrowing biology. Those are the 3 spots. So then you come home and you feed the biology. That jar right there is what we call a beta-glucan mixture. And so that's oats. Beta-glucan comes from lots of different things. Beta-glucan is basically a polysaccharide, which is sugar, which is carbon. But the night before you go and on your little scavenger hunt for biology, you mix this up because that feeds it. It also stimulates, that feeds the biology. It also stimulates an immune response, which is necessary for that biology to replicate faster. And so you feed the biology, you start this beta-glucan the night before. The next morning you go on a scavenger hunt with your kids and you borrow all this biology and you bring it home. Where did my clipper go? Right there. So what I do is I go and I borrow all this biology. I come home. We'll pretend there's beta-glucan mixture in here. Oats and water. When I mix the oats with water, I don't use city water. And I don't use rural route water. Does anybody know why? Treated water. Ocean, well, depends on where you're at in the ocean, actually. But city water and rural route water is treated to keep you healthy and to stop the spread of disease. Well, biology doesn't like that. So if you're using chlorine or chloramide water for your IMOS, you're going to kill some biology. So when I go and I get, this is actual pond water I got from my dad's pond. You want to look for a healthy pond. Again, you're using your free tools, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your hands. You're looking for diversity, fish, aquatic plants, snails, slugs, toads, tadpoles, all the things. You're borrowing the water. Bring your biology, your indigenous microorganisms that you're borrowing from nature home. You mix it with your beta-glucan. You mix it with more oats because that continues feeding the biology. And then you put it in this tub. And I actually have my current one with me. And I actually brought you a failure. Yeah, this is a failure because I didn't keep it moist. And it has not grown a fungal component. And this one, it still smells better than most soil I've seen, but it hasn't grown the fungal component. So you mix all that in here according to the instructions. You cut through the roots because there's biology that lives in the roots. And when you cut through it and the beta-glucan helps stimulate the immune response, the biology comes out. And then it commingles and it eats and it has a little party and it makes more biology. You put it in this tub. This tub limits sunlight. You keep it moist and you put a piece of cardboard over it. Why would you put a piece of cardboard over it? Grow fungus. This is my favorite part of, well, up to applying IMOS and outside of talking about IMOS. This is my favorite part. And these are just some pictures. I've gotten pink, yellow, red, and green fungus, which is fun to look at, and all different kinds of textures of fungus. And sometimes it's low and creeping, and sometimes it's tall and fuzzy. And I don't overthink and go, oh my gosh, it's not the same as last time. I go, look at that expression of diversity. How cool is it? And my kids think it's fun. They always want to peek in there, like, oh, what's growing today? So here's just a picture, some pictures of a few. That's the fungal component. So 24 hours to soak your beta-glucan, 8 to 12 days minimum to grow your biology and your fungal component. Next, you're going to build your brewer. This is a brewer I built, but when you order a kit, a 4-gallon brew kit from Kelly, Indiana, it comes with this bucket. It comes with all the supplies. I started with a 30-gallon brewer, which was way more than I needed. And 4 gallons sometimes is more than I needed. But then I just share the love with my friends and my family and my neighbors. But it comes with it. When I say you build your brewer, if you're a larger scale farmer, a 30-gallon brewer will treat like 2,000 acres of seed. This, depending on how you use it, 4 gallons will treat 86 bushels of seed, but we can also talk through application and other ways because Kelly and Deanna do a lot of biopriming of seed. Well, I sometimes want to use it and I'm not putting seed in the ground. And I've also used it to treat pest issues. I've also used it to treat fungal issues. And I've also just wanted to use it because I'm trying to get this system to regenerate as fast as possible. And so I spray it foliarly because the plant has the ability to open up its little stomata, accept the biology, and transport it down to its root. And that's how it makes it into the soil. And so build your brewer. Brewer talk. My husband is the engineer of the farm. I'm in charge of biology. I tend the plants and the animals. But if I need something built or fixed, and I can't do it with my adjustable hammer, which is a crescent wrench, it's not going to get done. He built our brewer, which is this one over here. It's literally a trash can. We got all of the parts from the hardware store. It cost us about $230 in 21 or 2. And he did it in about 2 hours. When you become an IMOS member, you get an exact cut sheet of exactly how to do that. Measure this long and cut it. Measure this long and cut it. Put A and B together. Written by Kelly, and he is amazing. And then if you want to do the smaller brew kit, when you buy it, it comes already set up. So that was the next step. Build your brewer. So then you're ready to brew. There's a couple pictures of brewing. When I brew, we're going to talk about this small one, but the 30-gallon brew is just a larger example. What I do is I take a measured amount of this indigenous microorganism, which still smells really good. And I encourage you guys to get up and come smell this at some point. I don't know, who's the worm guy in here? Are they gone? Did you smell the worms? Good. So you take a pre-measured amount, you put it in a tea bag, it's cotton tea bag. You stick it in your water. Your water in here is pond water. Why is it pond water? because there's biology in pond water.
Can you use well water? It's not treated?
You can. There's not as much biology there. I had that question because that's what I asked Kelly and Deanna from the beginning. Can I use my well water? She said you can. You absolutely can. But we like pond water because algae. The soil is an aquatic organism. Algae is really important. When you get that, not only so in algae is cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria fixes atmospheric nitrogen. So 70% of the air we're breathing, well, 78.2 something, I don't know, of the air we're breathing is nitrogen. It's not plant available. You have to have biology to fix that nitrogen and make it available to the plant to use. And so cyanobacteria is one of the things that does that. Cyanobacteria just does all kinds of other amazing things when it comes to bioremediation, healing soil, water retention. Cyanobacteria also makes the microbial glue. So when you pull out a plant and you look at the roots and they look like dreadlocks, the glue that sticks all that together, which causes aggregation, part of what causes aggregation is cyanobacteria. So win-win. So that's why we want to use pond water. And
yeah, what about rainwater? It sits for a while.
Yeah, you won't have as much biology in that as you would from a healthy pond. And when I talk about healthy pond, I'm so glad my dad's not in the room. He's really proud of me, but he doesn't like to hear this because he knows that what happens needs to be fixed, and we're working on that. But there's 2 ponds on his property. One of them is down the hill from the feedlot. That pond is not very healthy anymore. Not from when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was full of fish. It was gorgeous. It's pretty gross right now. The other pond he has is farther away. It's in a terrace. It's spring fed. It is beautiful. And like I went to school down at Pitt State University, and I became friends with people from Oklahoma and Arkansas, where they have creeks that are clear and rock bottom. And I grew up in the mud hole of Cheney Lake, and I love it. And so I've seen, the wide amount of diversity from water sources that you get to go play and enjoy. And I boast about my dad's this one pond because the water is most of the time crystal clear. And you can look down, you can see the bass, and you can see the catfish, and there's so much biology around. It makes my heart happy. And so that's the difference of diversity. But yeah, when I'm out there, I'm looking. So find your best source. That's what I say. You don't want runoff from roads, ditches, streets. You don't want water that's been treated. And if you don't have access to that, well, water will be okay. So you fill this, and before you put this in, you aerate this. So your kit would also come with this aerator. They did all kinds of fancy math, and actually I have a podcast where they talk about it. It's kind of funny. About figuring out what amount of air the biology in here needed, because if you don't get it enough food and enough air, all of the biology dies. And when a whole bunch of biology dies at once, it stinks. There's a funny story there. But you get the water, you put the aerator in, you super oxygenate it for 24 hours to make sure it's ready to receive the biology, and you're off to the races. You take your pre-measured amount of indigenous microorganism, you put it in the bag, and then you put in your feed, your food. Because if you want biology to reproduce, you got to feed it. Same with cows, same with cats, same with the stuff in the soil. You got to feed it. And so in your kit comes pre-measured food sources. And you guys can come smell these. This is a trademarked thing, and so I'm not going to tell you the names. I actually haven't been told the names myself, but I have a pretty good idea. But it doesn't matter because this is Kelly and Deanna's thing. This is a 30-gallon food kit, by the way. So you take your pre-measured food. This is a water-soluble packet. You take water out of here. You put it into here. You shake it up, let it dissolve. You pour it in. You do that for the first 4 food sources. Drop in your indigenous microorganism. Let it brew. 23 hours later, you drop the 5th food source in. Let it brew for at least 15 minutes up to an hour. And voila, you are ready to use your biology. And it will smell kind of like a fish tank, met a compost pile, met healthy soil, met, I don't know. But that's what I want to talk about. It should smell healthy, good healthy. If it smells like death, you had a biology die-off. So that's when we start talking about, was your temperature right? Was your aeration okay? That's never happened to me. I've been doing this for over 3 years. I've heard of it happening, but as long as I kept it at temperature and aerated, and I didn't do a lot of babysitting, it's been easy peasy, much easier than compost and Johnson Sue, which I still compost in Johnson Sue because I have a lot of biological matter that I don't just want sitting around. So video, maybe. Oh, there's no sound. Well, so much for that. Oh, maybe this video will work. So if you end up doing this, or if you brew any other biological product, this isn't just an IMOS thing. If you brew biological product and it's your first time, don't brew it in your kitchen unless you want to clean up a mess. Because you saw that foam, that's usually a pretty good indicator of biological activity. And when I first started brewing, the first thing I ever brewed to use at the farm was worm casting tea. And I called Dan up and I said, okay, give me the keep it simple, stupid recipe. And he told me, he's like, this much molasses, this much castings, use your well water, stick some kind of aeration. He goes, even if it's as simple as you have a leaky air chuck, stick it in there and let it go for at least an hour. The longer the better. Don't let it get too hot. He goes, you want a good foam on it, like you're brewing beer. I said, okay. So that's what you're looking for. Okay, now you have a brew. What do you do with it? Again, keep it simple, silly. And that's going to be on the next slide too. But this is a picture. I didn't think I'd be sharing this with people, just like Kelly and Deanna. I was taking pictures for myself. But this is a picture. This is a multi-species cover crop mix that I planted in the greenhouse. And I don't have a lot of high-end tools. So this is what I did for myself at a small scale. I spread a tarp out in my dad's shed. There's seed all over the place. I also added worm castings and biochar to go in and some gypsum. And then in that poison containers, not poison, it's biology. And I spray it, and then I use a scoop shovel or a broom and mix it all around, and then I spray it, and then I mix it all around, and I spray it, I mix it all around. And then I pick up the ends of the tarp with my dad's tractor and put it back either into a drill or into a bucket or a bag to take back to the farm and use. That's like the really keep it simple, silly one. This is a picture of my parents' setup. Well, this is my dad's setup. So gravity wagon, and you can't see it, but we take the other tractor with, and somebody will have to help me, those big seed totes that are black and they go like they come up. What are, yeah, there you go, Pro Box. And so the Pro Box is right here. The Pro Box falls seed down into this auger. I'm spraying with a wand while the auger's running. And we've done simple mathematic calculations. We have this much seed. We're putting this much IMOS on it. We dilute the IMOS with water if needed, if we're worried about stretching it across. And it goes in there, or it goes straight into the seed tender, or it goes straight into the drill box. This is Kelly, or this is Deanna. Part of the IMOS educational series comes with how to build your own setup to bioprimate, because theirs is way, way, way more fancy because they do it a lot, and they do a lot of acres with a lot of seed. And so he has it all set up, and it's like, put the IMOS in the thing, push a button, turn on the auger, you're good to go. So there's a spectrum here. And that's just 3 ways so far. I am learning how to use it many other ways. Let's see. Oh, I did have a picture of the Pro Box. So smaller scale. Let's talk garden scale. And my garden is like a garden on steroids, but garden scale. I run it through my drip lines with an injector. I put it in a watering can and I side dress. I put it in a backpack sprayer and I foliar apply it. In 22, the grasshoppers wiped out 98% of everything growing in my high tunnel in 24 hours or less. They ate wooden handles on the hoe. I have a picture of sunflowers where they were even eating the stem, and I've never seen grasshoppers eat the stem. There's a whole lot of fiber there that they usually don't go after. And I'm not certified organic, and I never will be, but there's nothing that I know to do about that other than chickens, and they also eat the plants. So I had just given up. I was like, well, my crops are done for this season. And a friend of mine called and he goes, have you thought about fighting fire with fire? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, fight biology with biology. And I was like, well, what do I use? He goes, IMOS, ding dong. I sprayed IMOS. What was left? The pressure lessened. They stopped. The bricks came up. And it does work. And I have studied bricks, both in my research jobs and in my individual production, and it did work. So another thing that I do is, like, if I buy plants from another farm or from a supply center, I will brew IMOS and I will let them have a root dip right before I transplant, or I will water to bring that biology in. Those are all the ways I've used IMOS. Again, get the biology in your soil and let the soil do the work. This is how I spray it in my pasture when I'm not going to plant a cover crop. Keep it simple, stupid. I don't own a tractor, but I own an ATV and a sprayer, and it takes time. And I have a little 8-acre piece of native grass that I've been managing for hay, to bring hay to my farm for the sheep. And that stuff has turned around in 2 years. I have a whole lot more production. I don't keep track of yield numbers. I'm not that girl. If you want those numbers or you're interested in seeing those things, I can connect you with farmers to tell you this is what I did and this is how it changed. But from a visual standpoint and from an observational standpoint, I have had a lot of success of applying this IMO stuff and the worm casting tea to that hay patch that has been hayed to death. And that's me. And now it's questions, comments, curiosities. Come smell my biology because I'm that weirdo. Best practice, if you're looking to really regenerate, is at least twice a year. So your spring warm up, right around that time. You want your soil temperature to be up to where your normal biology is waking up. And then at least in the late summer or fall, I use it as often as possible, because the price, and I don't have the numbers on the small, and I can get it for you. I'm not a good saleswoman. I'm just saying use it. The price, once you've gotten through your educational series and your setup, is so easy compared to almost any other product on the market, and also compared to the amount of work I was putting into composting and Johnson Sioux, that I don't even think about it. I just do it. But at least twice a year, for sure. Now, I did use IMOS last year, so I get drifted every year at my farm. I knew it would happen when I started my farm because I'm surrounded by conventional producers, and I actually really love the tillage producers around me because they use less poison. How messed up is that? But I got drifted really bad last year. And I was calling Russell Hedrick. I was calling all these people. I was calling Ray Archulette. What do I do? They're not dead, but I'm losing at least $5,000 in tomato production, if not 10, in the next 12 weeks. And I have contracts, and I want to pull out the 243 and start shooting tires on spray rigs. Like, that's where I'm at. Please talk me off the wall. What do I do? I know there's something I can do. And I ended up using some humic and fulvic acid foliar application, but what I really saw most of the benefit from was spraying biology. So, yeah. And that farm, here's a beautiful full circle moment. That farmer that's drifted me, him and I spent 45 minutes on the phone yesterday or Thursday, because he now knows that we're both trying to do the best job we know how with the tools we have, and he doesn't want to screw me. So he called me and said, we were spraying yesterday. I noticed the wind direction. We decided not to spray catty corner from you. please tell me what crops you have. And he finally understood that I'm growing year round, whether it's a production crop or a cover crop. So it's a beautiful thing. Yep. Any other questions? No? Okay. How long was that? Ish.
30, 20, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I didn't.
35.
Oh, cool. 35 minutes.